What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey, episode number 192, presented by the Barroom Network. It is the home of everything relating to the greatest sport in the world, the sport of hockey. My name is Vinny Parisi, and I am March. And this right here, this is Frankie Mueller, and he is the king of all beans. Frank, how you doing?
Shout out to Jersey Jerry for that quote. Legend.
You said you were going to ride with me. I am March.
And it's like Big Cat's trying to talk to him, and he's just talking over him, yelling over him.
Oh, he's like, you didn't take any of my picks either. I am March.
An all-time Jersey Jerry moment, for sure.
Oh, very funny. And, of course, March Madness is going on. We will touch on some Double M coming up here in a couple minutes. Frank, fun little hockey show. We're going to get into it in period number one. Welcome to period number one, Frank. In each period today, the first two, we're going to go over each of the conferences going on in the National Hockey League right now. We just eclipsed 1 month remaining in the regular season. It's getting spicy. It's getting real spicy because with 1 month left in the regular season, that means there's 1 month until the Stanley Cup playoffs begin. Frank, do you have in the Eastern Conference the 8 teams that you believe are going to make it at this point? I'm sure the list looks a tad bit different than your preseason one.
It does. Well, we got the Capitals. They already clinched, so they're in no matter what.
Yep.
I think
only team in the National to have clinched.
I think there's 6 locks in the East. Those being the Capitals, the Panthers, the Leafs, the Hurricanes, the Lightning, and the Devils. Now, the final 2 spots, very interesting battle we have. I think there's 4 teams that could fill those final 2 spots, those being Ottawa, Montreal, the Islanders, or the Rangers. I think Ottawa might get in. They've been playing some great hockey, but they're on a little bit of a downswing.
Colorado last night against them.
Montreal, they've been great at home. They have 7 home games left. They've won their last 5 home games. Before their next 5 are on the road, that could prove to be a little bit tough down the end, down the last stretch of the season. So they might have a tough time getting in and holding that last wild card spot. You got the Islanders, who are also playing some great hockey. They just beat the Canadiens. They're on a 3-game win streak. They've gotten 4 in a row with at least a point. They are getting points when it matters most right now at the end of the season. They would be my favorite to claim the 8th spot in the East. So I think it's going to be Ottawa and the Islanders who claim 7 and 8 in the East. And then the Rangers, they're only 2 points out with 2 teams to climb, but they've been playing terrible. They've been inconsistent all season. And they have 2 more games played than everybody else around them, which is going to be hard to make up with this little amount of games left. So they're cooked, in my opinion. So I would say Ottawa and the Islanders claim those final 2 spots in the East.
I agree. And a team below the Rangers, the Blue Jackets, I think they have a better chance than the Rangers. And I'm going to give mine in a minute. Yeah. So I agree with you on the 6 locks, mainly because New Jersey doesn't have enough time to choke it away. And I know I'm the big Devils fan. It's hard. You take the best player off of any team, and it's hard. It's just really hard. And yesterday they blew it. And I like the way they've played since Jack got hurt. I really do. Everyone's played very well. But the thing that I truly believe about hockey is that if you work hard and play the right way, you can win any game. And that goes for any team in the league. San Jose, Chicago, any of the worst teams out there. If you, for 60 minutes, play hard and play the right way, you have a chance to win. You probably won't make the playoffs because you're not talented enough or deep enough, whatever the case may be. But when the Devils have enough good players, without Jack Hughes in the lineup, there's still 3 30 goal scorers in the lineup. I mean, Bratt, Heischer, and Meyer are incredible. And then there's an okay amount of depth. With Jack in the lineup, they're supposed to be competing for the cup. So, but without him, I think they go from competing for the cup to maybe they wouldn't choke it away if there were 30 games left. I still think they're better than the other wild card teams that we're naming. I do, even without Jack. You can't be just one player in the NHL, and they've kind of proven they're not. Yesterday they choked. They had a terrible, probably the worst period I've seen them play this season.
Yeah.
Was the third period yesterday against Calgary. I honestly just couldn't believe what I was watching. Because they played so. It's one thing to have a bad period. It's another to have a bad period when you dominate the first two. I mean, it was some Chicago Blackhawks type stuff. Like literally. But I agree. The top three in the Metro and the top three in the Atlantic are locks. And then in the wild card, you follow Tracy Myers on Twitter. You ever hear of Tracy Myers?
I know who yeah.
She writes about the Blackhawks and the NHL for NHL.com. She said in like a real funny tone last night, all these awesome teams in the wild card chase in the Eastern Conference. And she goes, Ottawa, Montreal, the Blue Jackets. And she looked at Tab and goes, I think it was Tab. It was someone. It was all for the Rangers and Islanders to make the final two wild card spots. And I literally went, please, no.
Can you imagine?
No. I mean, yes, I can imagine because it feels like that's always the case. Those big teams that have been there, been in the playoffs a bunch, they always find a way. If the final two wildcard spots go to the Rangers and Islanders, I would be so mad. You would see me put on my Washington Capitals shirt, and whoever wins the damn Atlantic, any of these three teams could win the Atlantic. Any three of them could come in third. They're all separated by 2 points.
Yeah.
And the team that's on the bottom has one fewer game played. So in theory, if the Lightning won their game in hand, bless you, they would all have 87 points.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But I hope Ottawa is at least one of them. I would pick, if I got to pick what I want, I would pick Ottawa and Montreal. If I picked what I think, Ottawa, I get a weird feeling just because the hockey gods hate me.
I mean, Montreal's been playing good.
They've been playing so good, but so was Columbus when they finally got in a spot. And then once you get over that line, it seems like sometimes these teams tail off once they get over the line.
I had that feeling about Columbus.
And I want Columbus to be the team, but like Montreal would be fun. I just get a weird feeling it's going to be either the Rangers or the Islanders, which would just really, really, really suck. But, who in the Eastern Conference are pretenders and who are contenders?
Well,
just say it.
What? You're not going to listen. Out of respect, the Leafs are contenders.
No, not them.
Oh,
it'd be foolish to say they're not contenders. I don't care.
I mean, I wouldn't pick them in the first round, but they're contenders. Listen, I'll never choose them in the first round. That's just, I mean, unless I got to feel it. When you feel it, when you look at the matchup and you feel it.
The only team they've beaten in the first round in the Matthews era is the Lightning.
Right. They're hungry for revenge.
Yeah. I'm sure the Lightning, who have won 2 cups in the last 5 years, are just so hungry for revenge.
I think there's 5 contenders from the East.
Oh, you got 5. Oh, yeah, I know who you're going to say.
I got the Capitals, Hurricanes, Leafs, Lightning, and Panthers. I think everybody else, I think the Devils would be a contender if they were healthy. But they're not. They're not. I don't think they could win a 7-game series 4 times in a row.
Not without Hughes, Siegenthaler, and Hamilton. No
yeah, it's just, I don't see it. So I think those are the 5 contenders. I know you're a little iffy. Weren't you a little iffy on the Capitals?
No, the Hurricanes.
Or the Hurricanes, but the Hurricanes, man.
9-1-0, 8 in a row since trading Rantanen.
Lights out.
Peaking too early? Do you worry about that?
No, I think they're peaking at the right time. I think last month is when you really want to peak like this.
Totally.
I don't think you want to peak too late either. I think you want to peak with just enough time to continue that momentum. You don't want to peak with like a week left in the season. So I think this is actually perfect for them.
Totally. I get what you're saying. I was going to say 4. You kind of talked me into Carolina a little bit. I still am going to stick with my 4. I don't know, because I don't love the Carolina Hurricanes against the Devils. I think I would pick them because I think they're deeper without Hughes, Hamilton, and Siegenthaler. But like the Devils have played them so well this year, and I know all of it goes out the window in the playoffs. So maybe there's a little bit of bias showing there, like hey, maybe we can win a series. But I would pick Carolina in 6 if the season ended today. But if the Devils would have hung on and won yesterday, I might be singing a different tune. But yeah, I like when I think of legit contenders. I actually truly only think the 3 teams in the Atlantic.
Really?
I like Washington. I think it's a great story. If they win the cup, it would have to be the way Vegas got to the cup the year they lost to Washington. I don't see a true make everybody better game-breaking superstar on Washington. You know how I feel about Ovechkin, but it's a lot of just goals. Who on the team do you trust to just make the much-needed play every single time it's needed? Like Dylan Strome, great player. Pierre-Luc Dubois, great player. Mangiapane, awesome addition. They got gamers on the back end. Alexei Protas is probably, if you picked him up off the waiver wire in fantasy hockey this year, you probably have a chance to win. Like, you've been an insane. It reminds me of the Golden Misfits, where like all these guys from just spread around the league came together to Washington. Like, who does Chychrun think he is? Putting up like A- level offensive defensive number. When I say A-, it sounds like an insult. Like Cale Makar is like the A+, Quinn Hughes, Zach Werenski, guys like that. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. I hope they prove me wrong. I like Washington. You're 7 away from just getting absolutely clowned by me for a month straight. Like it happened again yesterday. Like he's unbelievable, and that's helping them have good momentum. Every Capitals game is like an event now. I just wonder if the steam runs out early in the playoffs. Like, if they played Ottawa in the first round, I'd pick Washington, but like begrudgingly, I'd pick them because like I could see Ottawa pulling that off. What if they played the Rangers and Shesterkin and Panarin got hot? Like,
are the Capitals that team of destiny this year with the whole goal chase going on, and now the Capitals may win the President's Trophy, and it's like the two are coming to collide together?
It's absolutely possible. I just wonder if the lure, what's the actual word I'm looking for? What makes it special? The goal chase that does go away when the playoffs start. Those goals don't count. So like Capitals games become slightly less of an event nationwide, worldwide, once the playoffs start. It's just business as usual once the playoffs start. I do wonder about that. I think they're great. They're deep. They're a 4-line team. Give Carberry Coach of the Year, in my opinion, I think if I had a vote, that'd be the guy for me. But when I look at those 3 teams, in the Atlantic, they all have like bona fide superstars all over the ice.
Yeah.
Florida and Tampa Bay have Hall of Fame goalies. Toronto has a very good young goalie. Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, Marner. I mean, what core 4 matches that when they're all at their best? Florida has Barkov on the top line. Just awesome. Like, talk about playing hockey the right way. You know, those are the types of players I like. Taves, Kopitar. There's a reason Heischer is my favorite Devil. It's just that 200-foot hard-nosed game. That's Barkov, you know?
For sure.
And I think I don't know. I hope I'm wrong because I want Washington to go far. I want to watch Ovechkin as much as I can this year, especially if he gets 7 more. But, it's going to be close. It's either going to be right at the end here this year or right at the beginning of next year. But, man, it's exciting. Either outcome's outstanding for hockey. But, yeah, and I do think Toronto can win. I don't look at a single team and say they are definitively better than the Maple Leafs in the Eastern Conference. It's all preconceived. I get why, but you got to admit it's preconceived. If they were called, I'll go back to my Section 10 reference. If they were the Louisiana Balloons with the exact same roster, but they were called the Louisiana Balloons, you'd be like the Louisiana Balloons have a legitimate chance to win the Stanley Cup. But because they're the Toronto Maple Leafs and they wear that little leaf on their chest, shit, the way they played on St. Patrick's Day wearing the Toronto St. Pat's jerseys, I'm like, why don't they bust those out for the playoffs? They might sweep the whole damn playoffs.
But we just see this every year. Every year. They look so good. They look so dominant.
Who do they lose to, though, usually?
The Lightning or the Panthers or somebody that the Stanley Cup champs.
The only inexplicable loss for them, to me, there's two in the Matthews era. They were better than the Bruins last year, and I think this year taught us that. But the Bruins also had that demon to shake from the year before. They just played so hard. But then when they lost to Columbus in the bubble, that was bad.
Yeah,
that was real bad. That was real bad. That's probably the most clowned I ever remember the Leafs getting. And then the following year, they lost to Montreal. The Leafs had the easiest path to the Stanley Cup final of all time. All they had to do was win the Canadian division in the playoffs, and then you're in the conference finals just by that alone. Remember, and Montreal beat Vegas, so you're not telling me that year the Leafs couldn't have beat Vegas either in the conference finals.
Yeah.
They always lose to the Cup champs or the team that goes to the Cup outside of the Columbus and Bruins one. I don't count that first year when Matthews was a rookie. They lost to Washington in 6 games. That wasn't that big.
But is it like, are they just being unlucky facing those teams, or is it just, I mean,
well,
if you're going to win a cup, you got to beat those teams.
Without question, I'm not saying you're right. Like they're in danger of becoming the Wild or the Sharks. Remember the Zach Parise Wild? Who'd they lose to in the playoffs?
The Hawks.
The Hawks.
Kings.
Every time they won the Cup, the Kings, and I think they lost to the Blues in 2019.
Yeah.
Like the Wild, they were always like the second or third best team in the conference, especially in the playoffs. The Leafs are in danger of becoming that same thing with the Sharks. Who'd the Sharks always lose to?
Same
the
thing.
Ducks, the Kings, all these teams that won cups. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. That Atlantic, though, here's where Washington can come out on top. By the time they get to the conference finals, are those 3 Atlantic teams just going to be brutally exhausted? Washington might have a little breeze in the first round against Montreal or the Islanders. In the second round, they'll probably sweep the Hurricanes because whatever series the Hurricanes get eliminated, they're getting swept. And then by the time they get to the conference finals, everyone's nice and fresh. Meanwhile, Toronto just had to go through Tampa, and Florida just had to go through Ottawa or something. I don't know. That could play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, VP. It's just the Leafs keep leafing.
Give me a matchup or two that you want to see just based on your personal agenda in the Eastern Conference.
I always like the Battle of Florida. Tampa
Okay.
and Florida. Tampa Bay versus Florida. Because the last time we saw them play and Florida won, it was almost the passing of the torch in terms of the best Florida team. But I still think Tampa Bay has a lot left to give and would give them a run for their money. And I think it would make for a great 7-game series. The other one, and this is contingent on Montreal making the playoffs, is if Montreal made the playoffs and faced off against Toronto. I think 2 original 6 teams, Canadian teams, are the only original 6 Canadian teams. And Montreal getting back into the postseason after 4 years. I love their ritual when they get into the postseason. I just think it'd be a great playoff series overall. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I'm so with you, dude. Mine are the exact same. So otherwise, I have one little extra thing to add, though. So, I want the Leafs to win the Atlantic Division, which would pair up Florida and Tampa Bay playing each other in the first round. Battle of Florida, awesome. Both times that happened in the last handful of years, I was locked in. Awesome series. And if the Leafs win the division, there's a good chance they play in the first round Ottawa. And so if it's either Ottawa or Montreal, that was my thing. The Leafs against one of the 2 Canadian teams. Because if you got Montreal, it's the 2 oldest teams in the NHL, huge rivalry, original 6.
Yeah.
If you got Ottawa, you got the Battle of Ontario, which is basically like Canada's version of the Battle of Florida, right? Like 2 teams in the same province.
Yeah.
One speaks French, one speaks English, but they're both in the same province. Province. It would just be so sick to see that matchup. So I'm with you. Either the Florida, Tampa Bay, and then Leafs versus one of Ottawa or Montreal. Either one. I hope the Capitals blow out whoever they play. And Devils Hurricanes feels like a lock at this point.
Yeah.
Biggest surprises in the Eastern Conference, real quick, good and bad.
Well, I didn't predict the Capitals to be this good, being President Trophy good. That was
a good surprise.
That's a good surprise. Like, wasn't expecting that, and also the Senators being right here in the playoff picks. It's a slight surprise. It's like they couldn't have been, but they're fully in it now towards the end of the season. I didn't think the Rangers would be this bad. I didn't think they would be as dominant as they were last season, and have 100 points or whatever the case may be. But I didn't think they'd be out of the playoffs with a month left in the season bad. And also, because you got Shesterkin, I think there's a lot of guys. I don't think there's a talent problem in New York. I think there's a locker room and chemistry issue in New York that's causing them to be like this. The whole Shesterkin wanting to be the highest paid player, stuff like that just rubs me the wrong way. I think there's a lot of in the locker room type issues the Rangers have to deal with and settle with, but I didn't think they'd be this bad. And then also the Bruins, I picked them to make the playoffs this year. Last year, I thought they'd be pretty bad or be on the downswing. I guess I was a year late or a year short or however you want to say it. But, I mean, I was wrong on that too. So that's a slight bad surprise, in my opinion.
Yeah, you said my two bads, the Rangers and the Bruins. If the season ended today, my preseason prediction would be 6 out of 8 correct. And the two that were incorrect were Ottawa and Montreal making it over New York and Boston. I don't have – I guess my good surprise is Montreal. I thought they'd be trash. I thought Hagens or Schaefer, Misa, whoever you think is going to go number 1 overall, I thought Montreal was a possible destination for them, but instead they're probably going to the playoffs. And we talk about – Biz calls it the Bermuda Triangle between Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Buffalo and Detroit have fallen off, especially Buffalo. Detroit has a slight chance. They'd have to win like 7 in a row here. But Ottawa looks like they might get in. So the Bermuda Triangle might be finally represented. So I'll give the nod to those two teams as well. All right, Frank, we're going to have the exact same conversation about the Western Conference in period number 2. All right, Frank. Who do you think is going to make the playoffs in the Western Conference?
In the Western Conference, I think we got 7 locks compared to 6 in the East. We got the Winnipeg Jets, the Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche, the Vegas Golden Knights, the Edmonton Oilers, the Los Angeles Kings, and the Minnesota Wild. I think those are your 7 locks. I think the 8th spot is up for grabs, obviously. The Blues, they've been playing the best out of any of the bubble teams right now. Their goal differential isn't the end-all, be-all, but they're the only bubble team that has a positive goal differential. I think that'll pay dividends later on in this final stretch. They only hold a 1-point lead for the final playoff spot, but they're playing their best hockey at a time where you want to be playing your best hockey, kind of like what I said about who was it in the Eastern Conference? The
Hurricanes.
The Hurricanes. I mean, the what you want to be playing right now with a handful of games left. Then you got the Canucks and Flames behind them. But the Blues, they're just playing so good right now that I think this momentum is going to carry them the rest of the way in the Western Conference. And I do think the Blues are going to claim that last spot, even though mathematically it's very much up for grabs.
Very interesting. I agree on their 7. The Wild are lucky they won their last 2. If they didn't win their last 2, they'd be in big trouble.
Yeah.
I think winning those last 2 should do what needs to be done in terms of getting into the playoffs. I think they're in big trouble once the playoffs start because with all the injuries that they've had, and I just think they're a player or 2 away from actually competing. And when that money from Parisi and Suter come off the books, they'll be in good shape to go make a play. I'd be all in on someone this summer, whether it's either trade or free agency. So, yeah, I agree with you on the 7 locks. I think I'm torn because St. Louis is damn good right now, and Binnington has just been on fire since the Four Nations face-off, where he won a gold medal, and he was a big part of it in the gold medal game or the final game, whatever you want to call it. But something tells me Vancouver sneaks into that last spot. I don't know what it is. I just feel like Quinn isn't going down without a fight, and don't give up on Calgary either. I picked Utah to make it at the beginning of the season, and then the first half of the year with the injuries, when they were missing all four of their top 4D, I knew that it's hard to
They looked
overcome
good
one.
early on.
And they've been playing better lately.
Yeah.
They're 5-3-2 in their last 10. Their owner is just so cool. He wants everyone to watch the games. They have the cheap concessions, cheap streaming service, so everybody could watch the push for the playoffs. I think they're going to be short. And again, the first half of the year without, I think, was it Sergachev, Marino, Dursey, and was it Oli Mata? All of them were out at the same time for like an extended period of time. If you took Siegenthaler, Hamilton, Hughes, and Pesce off the Devils at any given time, they'd lose 7 in a row too. They're struggling without 2, Siegenthaler and Hamilton. Yes. D is so important. It's the most important thing in hockey. So that it's going to be hard to overcome that stretch of the season. But I'm going to lean Vancouver, but it wouldn't shock me if it's St. Louis. Big one tomorrow. If they lose to the Hawks tomorrow, that's 2 points that are severely going to be missed. Who are contenders and pretenders?
I think there's 4 contenders from the Western Conference. Vegas, Colorado, Edmonton, and Dallas. I think the Jets are pretenders. They do this every year when they come into the postseason on fire after a great regular season. They come to face off against one of the contenders that I name, and they can't win a 7-game series. And in order to make it to the Cup, they're going to have to go through 2 of the 4 contenders that I named. And I just think that those 4 teams are so much better than them in a 7-game series to where their run's going to be halted short of getting to the Stanley Cup final.
They do this every year. I hear you. It's similar to the Leafs without the media attention that Toronto brings. They've never been this good.
That's fair.
They've never been this good.
Hey, if it was a 3-game series or a March Madness one and done, the Jets could do it. The 4 contenders that I see are so deep, so experienced, that they'd have to beat 2 of those to get to the Stanley Cup final, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
That's fair. I would replace Edmonton with Winnipeg, and then we have the same 4. Draisaitl's not feeling well. Connor McDavid came out of the game yesterday. Do you know how hard it is to get Connor McDavid to leave a hockey game? You have to bulldoze him off of the ice to get him off a lot of the time. And he left yesterday. And now Stu Skinner, for all his warts, a replacement level goalie's not as good as Skinner. I feel that way about most starting goalies in the NHL. You could say so-and-so sucks all you want. A replacement level goalie's not better. Your least favorite hockey player on your favorite team, a replacement level player is not better. So that's going to be tough to overcome. They've always felt a little pretender-ish to me this year. I don't feel that same juice that I felt last year. I hope they prove me wrong. I like the Oilers. But Winnipeg, man, they've been in the conference finals with this core. That might be the most forgotten about conference finals appearance in the history of sports. People forgetting Winnipeg lost to Vegas in a tight 6-game series in 2018. Everyone forgets that this core made a deep run once before. Everyone forgets it all the time. They think they're Toronto, and they're not quite that level. And I remember they beat the Wild one of the years in the playoffs. And the Wild had a real good team. It's just they're not this perennial. Last year was tough. Losing to Colorado last year was tough. Colorado wasn't as deep last year as they are this year. But I don't know. I plus 78 goal differential. And that is
great, but this is the Jets. They're like the Western Conference Leafs
with a little more playoff success.
Yeah,
actually a lot more than the Leafs.
But it's just they just don't get it done.
I mean, I would pick them against any wild card team.
Well,
And
yeah.
then in the second round against Dallas or Colorado,
Yeah,
think
see, I just don't see it.
I don't see it either. That's the thing.
And then
But
if they
that
beat Dallas or Colorado, then who do they have to play? Vegas or Edmonton?
okay, but that's the thing for me. One of Dallas or Colorado will go home before Winnipeg in all likelihood.
Yeah, but
So like be losing in the second round, if you lose to one of those two teams, that doesn't remove your contender status in my brain. Because like who would you pick between Dallas and Colorado?
Dallas.
Okay. So Colorado's not a contender then. In that argument.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I just don't. I wouldn't be shocked if they did lose to a wild card team. I wouldn't pick against them
Got
probably,
it.
but
Fair.
the way the Blues have been, you never know. That's just
That's
the
true.
Jets are one of those teams that they're like.
That's very possible. What playoff matchup that you want to see? If you got to pick, you're in charge. You just get to go based on what you think is awesome.
I love Dallas, Vegas. Those teams always put on a show against one another. Each hold a series win against each other. I mean, we need another one of those series. Like last year's series, oh my God, that was such a good series. And then even Dallas, Colorado, see Rantanen come back and face off against his former team. Plus, both teams are just fun to watch and good in general. So I think they'd put on a show. So I think Dallas, Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, either of those would be a treat.
I think Colorado's the best team in the NHL right now. If I were to power rank them, I really do. Since the trade deadline, the mid-season retool that they've done, on top of having the Nate Daddy with Cale Makar and Landeskog is skating, we'll see if he returns. That would be sick. Jonathan Taves has played a hockey game more recently than Gabriel Landeskog. That first round series against Dallas is going to be magical. It is going to be so magical. I cannot wait for that. I am going to be locked in when those two teams play. And I will say the winner of that series against Winnipeg in the second round and against maybe Vegas in the third round, that's all. The Western Conference to me owns this year. Like in terms of what series are just going to be the best, it's definitely the Western Conference. Minnesota, Winnipeg in the first round would also be really cool. I think Winnipeg would smoke them in 5, but the early vibes in the entertainment in the series, I think would be must-see TV. I really do. Vancouver versus Winnipeg. I like those all Canadian matchups too. If Vancouver played Winnipeg in the first round, that would be awesome as well. So
I agree.
Frank, in the Western Conference, biggest surprises, good and bad.
Well, I think the biggest surprise in the Western Conference, much like the Capitals, is the Jets being the President's Trophy good. Definitely wasn't expecting that either. I actually thought it'd be kind of a down year for the Winnipeg Jets. I think the biggest bad surprise, I think we're going to agree, is Nashville being as bad as they are. That quite doesn't make sense. The only thing I could think of is because you got all this talent coming in. You've never played games together. So it's like you're on a high thinking we're going to have this greatest season because we got all this talent. But you really didn't have time to put it all together. And I think with one this off season coming up, now that you have games under your belt, that could really do them justice. You could watch tape. Maybe it'll fix some of their problems. And then I think they could come back next year and be the powerhouse that they should have been this season.
Very fair. I have the same exact 2 picks. Winnipeg, you said everything I was going to say. Anaheim or Nashville, I mean. The only thing you said I disagree with, I think they're in big trouble. Like, I think they are mad in trouble. And the things that Barry Trotz and Andrew Brunette have said in the last month or so make me feel that they're in trouble. Andrew Brunette talking about the veterans acting like they don't care, basically, at the end of the season. That's just his words don't scream confidence to me, and they have no money. Like, how are they going to get out of Marchessault, Stamkos, Brady Shea? How are they going to get out of any of those contracts? they'll probably be able to trade Ryan O'Reilly. I kind of wish the Devils would have went for him at the deadline. I actually hope they go for him in the summer, because going for him at the deadline this year kind of made no sense. I would go for him at the deadline this year. Then next year you can run Hughes, Heischer, O'Reilly as your 1, 2, 3 down the middle. Few teams in the league have a center trio like that. It would go from a 2-headed monster to a 3-headed monster.
Right.
But yeah, I think they're cooked for a very long time. I wouldn't be shocked if Nashville competes for the lottery in the next couple of years. Now, could they be like Calgary, hover around playoff spots, because Stamkos and Marchessault and all them have a bounce back year, but still not good enough to be in the playoffs? That wouldn't shock me either. But you'd almost rather be like lottery bad. Not almost. I personally would rather be lottery bad. We used to have this debate back when the Blackhawks were tearing it down. I'm all about being terrible and getting picks and high draft picks, and you see how good Levshinov is, and you see what Bedard can do. You'll have another one this year. You look at the top teams in the league. I mean, Colorado, Cale Makar 4th overall, McKinnon 1st overall, Landeskog 3rd overall. I want to say it was 3rd overall. Rantanen 7th overall, I think, or 8th. Top 10 picks. I mean, that's how you build contenders. So we'll see. A team that's not going to make the playoffs, but I'll give them a second half good surprise. The Anaheim Ducks. When the calendar flipped to 2025, they were right there with the Blackhawks and Sharks at the bottom of the league. And now they have a solid 20 more points than both of them. 19 more than the Hawks. What is that? I'm very bad at math. 23 more than the Sharks. 19 more than the Hawks. I mean,
that's fair.
The transformation that Anaheim has made in the second half of this season makes me wonder what their offseason is going to look like. Are they going to make a big move? I heard they tried to be in on Rantanen just to see if they can convince them, like, hey, man, we got palm trees. It's awesome over here. You can walk to the rink in your sandals. It's great. And then go hit the pool outside after, because we're in Anaheim. It's amazing. I think Anaheim's going to be pretty good next year. I don't know if I'm going to pick them to make the playoffs. We're going to have to talk. But my good surprise of a team not making the playoffs is Anaheim, because like I said, at the beginning of the year, I remember the Devils were playing them on New Year's Eve, the night of the Winter Classic. I rode home from the Winter Classic listening to the Devils play the Ducks, because it started after the Winter Classic was over. And the Ducks won that game against the Devils team, who at that point in time were like President's Trophy contending at the end of December. Yeah. So that Ducks loss actually was probably the start of what became the eventual downfall of the Devils this year. At least it started it. So yeah, I really like what the Ducks are doing. We'll see if they keep Zegras. Also, I now hope they do. I used to not. Now I hope they do.
Also, a surprise good were the Blues. I was not expecting them to be a playoff contender.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly thought they'd be down near the bottom of the NHL with the Blackhawks and Sharks.
Yep.
But now, I mean, it looks like they might make the playoffs. They're right there. We'll see what happens.
The Frozen Four is in St. Louis. I hope Snuggerud, a Blues prospect, and Minnesota makes the Frozen Four. That's one of my things I'm cheering for. So he can play in the Frozen Four in St. Louis. But that would also mean that Sam Rinzel and Oliver Moore play in the Frozen Four as well. Oliver Moore was the player feature. They do the in the system thing at every Blackhawks game. The game you were at, the feature was...
I know, I'm thinking. I could picture it.
Definitely tweeted it, but I don't want to cheat. Was it Boisvert from the... Was it...
I'll know it when I hear it.
Was it Sam Rinzel?
No. I'll know it when I hear it.
So, I tweet them all. Let's see. Against the Kraken.
Oh, my God. I'm going to kick myself when I hear it.
Yeah, you are. So am I. Yep. That's crazy that I forgot that, because he's one of my favorite Blackhawks prospects. I don't think he's going to be a star.
And me and Tom have talked about him, too. I just can't think of his name.
He's just going to be a real solid bottom six forward, I think. His ceiling isn't as high as a Frank Nazar, but I think his floor is higher than an Oliver Moore.
Isn't it Ryan somebody?
It's Ryan Green from
There you
Boston
go. I
University.
couldn't think of his name. I couldn't think of
BU's captain. BU lost yesterday
Yeah.
in the Hockey East semifinal. They were going to get a bid in the, of course, in the tournament, but they're not going to play in the Hockey East Championship tonight. So that's interesting. Yeah. The Blackhawks and Sharks are both a little worse than I thought they'd be this year, too. I think they're both going to be pretty bad next year, too. But then the following year, we'll see. So, yeah. Frank, let's talk a little shooty hoop. Period number 3. Frank, what did you observe yesterday, and what are you thinking for today and March Madness moving forward? Teach me, because I don't know S about F.
We got there's some games going on right now.
There
Alabama's only up 6 in the second half to Robert Morris. March Madness yesterday, my takeaways. McNeese, they stunned Clemson. The classic 12-5 upset. I was expecting more out of Clemson. They were down 24 points to McNeese at one point. This is a veteran school with a veteran coach. They're one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. They started 1 from 10 from beyond the arc. They were -7 on the rebounds for a team that they dominate with their size. They got cursed with the 12-5 matchup. It's just I don't know how they lost that matchup to McNeese, but they got dominated. And it ended up only being a 2-point victory for McNeese. But really, I mean, I think that the scoreline's a little inflated because Clemson came down and just had an easy layup with no time left. It's not like they had a chance to tie or win the game. It's kind of like with empty nets in hockey, when the score looks a little more inflated than it is. But Gonzaga dominated Georgia as per usual. Gonzaga is one of those March Madness teams that everybody expects to be good this time of the year, no matter what seed they are. They're an 8 seed this year. Who knows? Maybe they could go and tie the record and be the tied for the lowest seed to win it all. Probably is not going to happen, but you got Mark Few as the head coach. Like I said, Gonzaga is always dominant this time of the season. Drake, they came in, upset Missouri. Not that big of an upset. The 11 against the 6. A lot of people sided with Drake. I understand. Missouri wasn't that great this year. Arkansas beat Kansas, and Arkansas, they had a horrible start to the season. But John Calipari is a veteran coach that revived this team. He started out horrendous, and somehow they've made a run down the stretch and won a game in March. Once again, with a veteran coach like him, it's not that crazy to see, but Kansas goes down early. There were no major upsets in day 1 of March Madness. There was no 1, 2, or 3 seeds losing, no 4 seeds losing. So other than that, there weren't any major upsets besides the 12th seed McNeese beating the 5th seed Clemson. But once again, a full slate of games today. I'm looking forward to it. I love it. It's always on. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Did you fill out any brackets?
I did.
Who did you pick to win?
Florida. Yep.
And all of them? Or did you only do one?
I always do the same in each. I always copy the picks.
I also picked Florida beat.
Yep.
I picked Florida.
I think it's their year. We'll see.
That would be fun. That would be real fun if Florida could win. I just want to get one right again. It's been a while. My
one is when North Carolina won it all.
Oh yeah, I remember. I am currently in 28th out of 100 and 28th. I don't even know how to figure it out. It's like 120 something.
It's not bad.
It's not bad at all. I hope I continue to do better though. I want to do well.
How are we going to see any major upsets today? Any
I don't know.
or lowers losing?
I would have to look at the exact slate. Let me pull up the slate right quick. We got a little bit of time because I was going to give you a full 10 minutes.
Illinois is going down.
I picked them no, I think I might have picked them to lose.
I picked the play-in team in that one.
It's the team that Texas lost to, right?
Xavier.
Yeah. Xavier. I'm going to be able to watch that one in full too. which I'm
Really?
very yeah. Basically everyone after 6 o'clock, I'll be able to watch in full. Well, Florida starts at 5:50, my champion, but they'll win by 50. By the time I sit down with a hot dog, Florida will be winning by 30.
Oh yeah, they should.
I'm excited to watch Arizona play Akron. Oh, Marquette, that's got a little local flavor. That's cool. Seeing UConn play Oklahoma, that's probably the game of the day, right? Is that the
Well,
game of the
UConn's
day?
going for a three-peat.
Yeah, in Oklahoma, they were like one seated lower than them, so like I don't know.
Absolutely.
I just
I
think that's a fun game.
G's Liberty closes it out against Oregon tonight.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
North Carolina Ole Miss will be good too.
Oh
That's at
yeah,
3.
Hunter. I'll probably be watching that one from here. I mean, go Ole Miss.
I just don't see any big upsets in the first round. Any 4 or lowers, really.
No, the only one I picked was one big one. Which one was it? I'm drawing a blank now. I would have to, which it probably could have already happened. I have to pull up my bracket. I picked a big upset, like a
Did
big
you?
one. Yeah, but I probably got it wrong already.
I have Colorado State, the 12th seed against Memphis.
Oh,
They're
do
winning
you?
right now. Yeah, they're winning right now.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think Michigan State's a sleeper too,
Michigan State, eh?
to like win it all.
Hmm.
I think they're a sleeper. Them and Alabama, I think, are the 2 sleepers as a 2 seed.
Oh, you're gonna think I'm crazy. You're gonna think I'm freaking nuts. I picked Troy to beat Kentucky.
Jesus Christ.
Kentucky's going down
Troy,
to Troy.
you picked a man to beat a team.
Huh?
You picked the Troy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, G picked Troy too.
Hell yeah. Go Troy. Let's go Troy. I am March. When Troy wins, you're getting an I am March. Good thing I'll be by Skylar by 6'10".
Oh my God,
God.
Troy?
You are in big trouble talking trash to me. Oh my God.
You
I
picked the
am
guy's
March.
name.
I am Ovechkin. I am Wayne Gretzky. Remember that.
You're
Remember
Norfolk
that.
State.
Yeah, no,
So
you're Norfolk State. You're Clemson. You talk a lot of game, and then you
Yeah,
lose
that was
with
bad.
12 seed.
That was
You're
bad.
Clemson. Ovechkin, Gretzky, Troy. Ovechkin, Gretzky, Troy, Parisi. Let's go. Let's go.
That's your Mount Rushmore.
That's the list of goats. The goats of the sports talking world. Ovechkin, Gretzky, Troy, Parisi. Wow.
Who'd you choose between Baylor and Mississippi State?
I'm
You
not
had to
picking
go Baylor.
I'm not picking Brandon Walker's favorite team. Hell no. Yeah, I went Baylor, and they're winning by 7.
Late.
Yeah, game.
I chose
And then
Baylor.
they'll get smoked by Duke in the second round.
Oh yeah.
Unless Mount St. Mary takes down Duke.
Could you imagine?
I have Duke losing to Florida in the final. So
My final 2 is Florida, Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Yeah.
Love Bama.
Alabama's a sleeper.
Love Bama. All right, Frank. I'm going to send you off with America's favorite podcast segment of the week. I am March. Breaking bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Ladies and gentlemen, the time for talk is over. The floor is yours.
I only have one pick this week because I thought it would be great to dedicate it to March Madness. And I've never done this before on Breaking Bets out of all the years we've had this show. So I thought it would be different to focus on one pick and give you a futures pick for March Madness. We're going to give you the Florida Gators to win the national championship. You could still get it in today. Doesn't just because the tournament started doesn't mean you can't bet it. It was plus 380 as of last night. Florida is one of those teams that people know are dominant, but maybe some people overlook them in your bracket a little bit. You know, you got people with the Dukes and the Auburns and the Houstons. You know, there's going to be those people. Maybe people overlooked Florida a little bit. Of course, there's going to be a handful of people with the Gators in your brackets because they're a 1 seed. But I think, in my opinion, they're the best overall 1 seed in the tournament. They're not the number 1 seed. I think Auburn is the consensus number 1 seed. But they come into this tournament absolutely dominating SEC play. They beat Auburn on the road, Tennessee, Alabama twice, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and a majority of those wins that I just named against those big teams were blowouts. The SEC has been the best it's ever been in quite a long time, and I believe a record 14 teams are competing in the SEC, are competing in March Madness from the SEC this year, which is like a tournament record, and they've been dominating it all. I love their path to the championship, and I think they're going to be cutting down the nets in April, so we're going to take the Florida Gators to win the national championship, plus 380, whatever units you want to put on it, because it's a futures, go for it. But that is my one pick for you on Breaking Bets, and we're going to try something new with a futures pick for March Madness.
Wow, there you go. There you have it. I heard Auburn lost 4 of their last 5 going into the tournament, and that scared me away.
Yeah, I like Auburn.
War Eagle.
I just don't see it, to be honest. I think Florida's the more all-around complete team of any team. The only other team I think is a true contender, like I said, Michigan State and Alabama could be those sleeper picks that can win it all. I think Houston's very good. But
Of course.
the Final Four's in Texas, so if Houston gets there, they kind of got the home court advantage at that point too.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think Houston's another big.
Absolutely. We'll see how it goes, Frank. Great show. Remember, Troy, I am March. I'm the king. Just never forget it, Frank. Just never forget it.
If they win, that'd be crazy.
If they win, you ought to start showing me some respect around here.
You got to get a Troy hat.
I'll tell you what. If they win, I'll get a Troy hat maybe at some point. There was one other thing I was going to say, and now I can't remember. Oh, I've heard. I think most teams or every team to ever win March Madness was top 25 in offense and defense.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. I know Florida fits in that mold. Duke fits in that mold. Obviously, Houston. I don't remember. A lot of SEC teams this year, though. 13, 14.
That's crazy.
That's dumb.
It's crazy.
It's dumb. You're not telling me a second best team in a smaller conference isn't better than like Vanderbilt. I'm sorry. I don't know too much about college basketball. I'm not like this diehard. I'm not watching crap ton of games. But when I look and see Vanderbilt is like 6-10 in conference, and they got an at-large bid over a team that probably went like 20-4 in their conference, but there was a smaller conference. That's dumb. I don't like it.
I hear you.
I don't like it one bit. But we will see.
Alabama's on the ropes, up 4.
Oh, boy. Better get to that. I hope everybody enjoyed today's program. For At the King Bean, I'm Vinny Parisi. Make sure you subscribe to the Barroom Network on everything. And as always, I am March! Thank you for listening.